Planning your next vacation? You might want to pack differently if you're going to any of these destinations. Not light, heavies, because the cities on this list do not negotiate with warmth. These are places where cold is not a season, but a condition. Not a weather event, but a way of life, where architecture bends to the freeze, where culture schedules around the darkness. These are the 25 coldest cities on Earth, and some of them will make you reconsider everything you thought you knew about what human beings can endure and what they can celebrate in the dark. Yakutsk, Russia. Yakutsk is the coldest city on Earth. Not the coldest place, not the coldest region, but the coldest functioning city with a permanent population, an economy, universities, theaters, restaurants, and a civic life that continues operating at temperatures that most of the world's population will never experience and cannot easily imagine. The city sits on the Lena River in the Russian Far East, in the Republic of Sakha, on a foundation of permafrost that extends hundreds of meters below the surface. Winter temperatures average -40 degrees Celsius and regularly drop to -50 and below. At those temperatures, exposed skin freezes in minutes. Exhaled breath freezes instantly, producing a phenomenon locals call the whisper of the stars, the faint crackling sound of water vapor freezing in the air around a person's face. Cars are left running overnight because engines that stop at -50 may not restart. Buildings are constructed on stilts driven into the permafrost rather than conventional foundations because the heat of a building would thaw the ground beneath it and cause structural collapse. Despite all of this, Yakutsk has a population of around 350,000 people, a functioning university, an extraordinary mammoth museum housing specimens pulled from the permafrost, and a local culture of warmth and hospitality that is, in context, not merely metaphorical. It is one of the most remarkable human settlements on Earth. Oymyakon, Russia. Oymyakon is technically a village rather than a city, but its place in the geography of cold is so absolute that to omit it from any serious accounting of extreme cold settlements would be dishonest. It holds the record for the lowest temperature ever recorded in a permanently inhabited place, -67.7 degrees Celsius in 1933, a number that exists at the boundary between meteorology and science fiction. The village sits in a valley in the Sakha Republic, not far from Yakutsk, and that valley position is precisely why it is so cold. Cold air drains into the depression and pools there, with no wind to disperse it and no solar angle in winter to warm it. Around 500 people live in Oymyakon year-round. There is one school, which closes only when temperatures drop below -52 degrees Celsius. The ground is permanently frozen to a depth of over a kilometer. Pens do not work in the outdoor cold. Glasses freeze to faces. Funerals require fires lit days in advance to thaw the ground enough to dig. It is one of the most extreme inhabited places on Earth, and its people live there not because they have no choice, but because it is home. Verkhoyansk, Russia. Verkhoyansk competes with Oymyakon for the title of the coldest permanently inhabited place on Earth, and the competition is genuine enough that scientists have argued about it for decades. What is not in dispute is that Verkhoyansk, a small town in northeastern Siberia on the Yana River, has recorded temperatures of -67.8 degrees Celsius, marginally colder than Oymyakon's record depending on the measurement. What makes Verkhoyansk additionally remarkable is its temperature range. It also records summer highs above 37 degrees Celsius, giving it one of the largest annual temperature ranges of any location on Earth, over 100 degrees of variation between its coldest and warmest recorded temperatures. A place that is both one of the coldest and one of the hottest it has ever been, depending entirely on which month you visit, represents something genuinely extraordinary about the extremes of continental climate. Norilsk, Russia. Norilsk is the most isolated large city in the world. It cannot be reached by road from anywhere. Access is by air or, in summer, by river. It sits 350 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle in Siberia, and it was built entirely by Gulag labor in the 1930s under Stalin, its nickel and copper deposits deemed valuable enough to justify the construction of a city in one of the most hostile environments on Earth using forced labor under conditions that killed hundreds of thousands of people. The city that emerged from that horror is now home to around 170,000 people and remains one of Russia's most important industrial centers, its nickel smelters producing roughly 15% of the world's nickel. It is also one of the most polluted cities on Earth, its air thick with sulfur dioxide from the smelters that the snow turns black around them. Winter temperatures average -30 degrees Celsius and drop considerably lower. The sun does not rise above the horizon for 2 months in winter. Despite everything, Norilsk has museums, theaters, and a population that has built a genuine civic culture in one of the most unlikely places imaginable. Yellowknife, Canada. Yellowknife is the capital of Canada's Northwest Territories, sitting on the northern shore of Great Slave Lake, one of the deepest lakes in the world. And it serves as the gateway to some of Canada's most extraordinary subarctic wilderness. Winter temperatures regularly drop to -40 degrees Celsius, and the city records some of the best aurora borealis viewing in the world, a consequence of its position directly beneath the auroral oval. The city has a genuine frontier character. It was founded as a gold mining settlement in the 1930s and retains a particular energy that comes from being a place people choose deliberately, knowing exactly what the winters involve. The ice road that connects Yellowknife to outlying communities across the frozen surface of Great Slave Lake is one of the most extraordinary transport phenomena in North America. A highway that exists for only a few months each year and requires constant monitoring of ice thickness to remain safe. The city's indigenous Dene community has called this land home for thousands of years, their knowledge of the subarctic environment representing one of the deepest accumulated bodies of cold weather wisdom anywhere on Earth. Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. Ulaanbaatar is the coldest capital city on Earth by average annual temperature. It sits on a high plateau in central Mongolia at an elevation of over 1,300 meters, surrounded by mountain ranges that block warmer air from the south, while doing nothing to stop the Arctic air masses that descend from Siberia in winter. Average January temperatures hover around -25 degrees Celsius, with extremes reaching -40. The city is also one of the most air-polluted capitals in the world in winter, because the hundreds of thousands of people living in the Gyr districts, the traditional felt tent settlements that ring the formal city, heat their homes with coal fires, and the resulting smog in cold, still air settles over the city in a toxic inversion layer. Ulaanbaatar is a city of extraordinary contrasts. Soviet-era concrete architecture alongside traditional gears, a booming economy driven by Mongolia's mineral wealth alongside persistent poverty, and a cultural identity rooted in nomadic tradition that sits in complicated relationship with rapid urbanization. Astana, Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan's capital city was relocated from Almaty to the steppe in the late 1990s. A decision made partly for political reasons and partly to develop the country's interior. The city that has been built on the windswept Central Asian steppe is extraordinary in its architectural ambition. Gleaming towers, futuristic government buildings, a vast Khan Shatyr entertainment center shaped like a giant tent, all rising from flat grassland in a setting that offers no natural windbreak whatsoever. Winter temperatures in Astana regularly reach -35 degrees Celsius, and the steppe winds that blow across the city amplify the wind chill to levels that make time spent outdoors in January a brisk commitment. The city has been renamed multiple times, most recently in honor of former President Nazarbayev, and its identity as a purpose-built capital in an inhospitable location gives it a quality found in few other cities on Earth. The sense of a civilization insisting on itself against the landscape's indifference. Harbin, China. Harbin is China's northernmost major city, sitting in Heilongjiang province near the Russian border, and it has built its most extreme seasonal characteristic into its primary cultural identity. Every January, Harbin hosts the Ice and Snow Festival, the largest ice and snow festival in the world, in which massive sculptures carved from ice harvested from the frozen Songhua River are assembled into an illuminated city of ice buildings, towers and landmarks that draws millions of visitors from across China and around the world. The festival is extraordinary, but the cold that makes it possible is serious. Winter temperatures regularly drop to -30 degrees Celsius and below, and the city records some of the lowest temperatures of any major Chinese urban center. The Russian architectural influence visible in many of Harbin's older buildings reflects the city's history as a Russian railway settlement and gives it a distinctive character, unlike any other Chinese city. Murmansk, Russia. Murmansk is the largest city on Earth located north of the Arctic Circle, with a population of around 300,000 people sitting on the Kola Peninsula of northwestern Russia, overlooking the Barents Sea. What makes Murmansk remarkable as an Arctic city is what it does not have. Despite its extreme latitude, it is an ice-free port, kept open year-round by the moderating influence of the Gulf Stream's residual warmth. This geographical accident made Murmansk one of the most strategically important ports in Russian history, the point through which Allied convoys supplied the Soviet Union during World War II in one of the most dangerous maritime operations of the entire conflict. The city experiences polar night for over 40 days in winter, a period in which the sun does not rise above the horizon and the city lives under a perpetual twilight or darkness, lit by streetlights and the occasional flash of aurora borealis overhead. Iqaluit, Canada. Iqaluit is the capital of Nunavut, Canada's newest and largest territory, and it sits on Baffin Island above the Arctic Circle in a landscape of tundra, sea ice and Arctic sky that has few equivalents anywhere on Earth. The city has a population of around 8,000 people, making it one of the smallest capitals of any territory or province in North America, and it sits at the center of Inuit cultural life in the eastern Arctic. Winter temperatures regularly drop to -40 degrees Celsius, and the sea ice that forms in Frobisher Bay each winter connects the city to the surrounding land in ways that alter the geography of daily life, allowing travel across the frozen bay that is impossible in summer. The Inuit cultural presence in Iqaluit is profound and living, not museumified. The knowledge systems, languages, art traditions, and relationships with the Arctic environment that the Inuit have developed over thousands of years are visible and active in the city's daily life. Fairbanks, Alaska, USA. Fairbanks sits in the interior of Alaska, far from the moderating influence of the coast, in a basin position that, like Oymyakon, allows cold air to pool and concentrate. Winter temperatures regularly reach -40 degrees Celsius and occasionally drop below -50. The city is a university town, home to the University of Alaska Fairbanks, which houses some of the world's leading research institutions for Arctic science, permafrost study, and aurora borealis research. The aurora viewing from Fairbanks is among the best in the world, the clear, cold winter skies offering conditions that photographers and aurora chasers pursue from around the globe. The city has a gold rush history that gives it a particular frontier energy, and the surrounding wilderness, including Denali National Park a few hours to the south, makes it a gateway to some of the most spectacular and least visited landscape in North America. Rovaniemi, Finland. Rovaniemi is the capital of Finnish Lapland, sitting almost exactly on the Arctic Circle in northern Finland, and it has made its relationship with extreme cold and the magic of the subarctic winter into its primary civic identity. The city was completely destroyed during World War II by German forces retreating from Finland and was rebuilt from scratch. Its street plan designed by Alvar Aalto in the shape of a reindeer's head and antlers, a detail that is visible from aerial photographs and reflects both the playfulness and the cultural groundedness of Finnish design thinking. Rovaniemi markets itself as the official hometown of Santa Claus, and the Santa Claus village on the Arctic Circle attracts visitors from around the world seeking snow, reindeer, husky safaris, and the experience of crossing the Arctic Circle in a meaningful landscape. Winter temperatures regularly reach -30 degrees Celsius, and the polar night, during which the sun does not rise for weeks, is experienced here with all the atmospheric intensity that Finnish darkness produces. Tromsø, Norway. Tromsø is the largest city in northern Norway, a university city of around 75,000 people sitting on an island in a fjord above the Arctic Circle. And it has solved the problem of polar darkness with a cultural response that the rest of the world might study with profit. Rather than treating the long winter night as something to be endured, Tromsø has built an entire cultural calendar around it. The northern light season from September to March, the polar night itself reframed as a period of particular atmospheric beauty, the Sami cultural presence that gives the region's relationship with winter an indigenous depth going back thousands of years. The aurora borealis visible from Tromsø is among the most reliable and dramatic in the world. The city's Arctic Cathedral, a dramatic triangular structure of aluminum and glass that catches the low northern light, is one of the most photographed buildings in Norway. Winter temperatures average around -5 degrees Celsius in the city, moderated significantly by the fjord, though the surrounding mountains experience considerably more extreme conditions. Winnipeg, Canada. Winnipeg sits on the flat Manitoba prairie at the confluence of the Red and Assiniboine rivers, in a position that offers no geographical protection whatsoever from the Arctic air masses that descend from the north in winter. It is, by average winter temperature, one of the coldest major cities in the world, recording winter temperatures that regularly reach -35 degrees Celsius, with wind chills that can push the effective temperature to -50 and below. The city has responded to this with an extraordinary piece of urban infrastructure: the Winnipeg Skywalk, a network of enclosed, heated pedestrian walkways connecting major buildings in the downtown core, allowing residents to move through the city center without exposure to outdoor winter conditions. Winnipeg is also one of Canada's most culturally vibrant cities, with a disproportionately large arts and music scene relative to its population, and a Ukrainian-Canadian cultural heritage that is visible in everything from the architecture to the food to the annual festival calendar. Ulan-Ude, Russia. Ulan-Ude is the capital of the Republic of Buryatia in Russia, sitting east of Lake Baikal near the Mongolian border, and it is a city of unusual cultural complexity. The Buryat people, a Mongolic ethnic group indigenous to this region, have maintained a distinct cultural identity that is visible in the city's temples, festivals, and everyday life, and the city contains the largest Buddhist temple complex in Russia. It is also one of the coldest cities in Russia outside of the extreme northeast, with winter temperatures regularly dropping to -30 and below, a product of its continental interior position and distance from any moderating maritime influence. The world's largest head of Lenin, a monumental bronze sculpture that dominates the central square, is one of those Soviet-era absurdities that has become, through sheer persistence and the passage of time, a genuine local landmark that residents regard with affectionate irony. Irkutsk, Russia. Irkutsk is one of Siberia's oldest and most historically significant cities, a former center of the Siberian fur trade that grew wealthy enough in the 18th and 19th centuries to build the elegant wooden mansions that still stand in its historic center, their carved facades and painted shutters creating a streetscape of surprising beauty in a city most of the world associates with nothing but cold and distance. It sits on the Angara River near the southern tip of Lake Baikal, the world's deepest lake and the repository of approximately 20% of the world's unfrozen surface fresh water. Winter temperatures in Irkutsk regularly drop to -30 degrees Celsius, and the frozen surface of Lake Baikal, which can support the weight of trucks and becomes a road in winter, is one of the most extraordinary natural phenomena accessible from the city. In summer, Irkutsk is a genuinely beautiful destination. In winter, it is one of the great Siberian cold weather experiences. Chita, Russia. Chita is the administrative center of the Zabaikalsky Krai region of Russia, sitting in the Transbaikal area east of Lake Baikal in a position of profound continental isolation. It is far from any ocean, far from any moderating influence, and its winters reflect that isolation with temperatures that regularly reach -35 degrees Celsius and below. The city has a history connected to the Decembrist uprising of 1825. when Russian aristocrats who participated in the failed revolt against Tsar Nicholas I were exiled to Siberia, and many ended up in Chita, bringing with them an educated, cultured sensibility that left a mark on the city's character. The Trans-Siberian Railway runs through Chita, and for travelers making that legendary journey, the city represents one of the deep Siberian stops where the scale and isolation of the Russian interior becomes fully apparent. Magadan, Russia. Magadan sits on the Sea of Okhotsk in Russia's far east, and its name carries a weight that goes beyond meteorology. This was the administrative center of the Kolyma Gulag system, the network of labor camps in which hundreds of thousands of Soviet prisoners died during the Stalin era, working gold and uranium mines in conditions of cold, starvation, and brutality that represent one of the darkest chapters in 20th century history. The city that exists today is home to around 90,000 people, many of them descendants of those who came to the region in the Soviet era, whether by choice or by force. Winter temperatures regularly reach -30 degrees Celsius, and the surrounding landscape of mountains, tundra, and frozen sea is spectacular in the way that extreme, austere places often are. The Mask of Sorrow, a monumental sculpture overlooking the city commemorating the victims of the Gulag, is one of the most powerful memorial artworks in Russia. Barrow, Utqiagvik, Alaska, USA. Utqiagvik, known as Barrow until 2016 when it reclaimed its traditional Inupiaq name, is the northernmost city in the United States, sitting on the Arctic coast of Alaska at a latitude of over 71 degrees north. The sun does not rise above the horizon for 65 days in winter and does not set for 82 days in summer, giving the city the most extreme light cycle of any American settlement. Winter temperatures regularly reach -35 degrees Celsius, and the Arctic Ocean, frozen solid for months, extends to the horizon in a landscape of ice and sky that reduces human scale to something almost negligible. The Inupiaq cultural community that has called this coastline home for over 1,000 years has developed a relationship with this environment of extraordinary depth, built on the hunting of bowhead whales, seals, and caribou, and expressed in a cultural tradition that is actively maintained and celebrated. Dudinka, Russia. Dudinka sits on the Yenisei River in the Krasnoyarsk Krai region of Siberia, north of the Arctic Circle, serving as the river port for Norilsk, the industrial city described earlier in this list. It is smaller than Norilsk, with a population of around 20,000, and it experiences the full severity of an Arctic Siberian winter. Temperatures that regularly drop to -40 degrees Celsius, months of polar darkness, and a landscape of frozen river and tundra that extends in every direction without visible limit. The Yenisei at Dudinka freezes to such depth in winter that the ice road across it, connecting the town to the opposite bank, carries fully loaded trucks. The spring breakup of the river, when the ice begins to move and massive flows crash and grind against each other in the current, is one of the most dramatic natural events in Siberia, and one that the residents of Dudinka have a front row seat to every year.